Hey, Butthead, what is this?
Just wait. Something cool's gonna happen.
Beavis and Butt-Head are not role models. They're not even human. They're cartoons. Some of the things they do would cause a person to get hurt, expelled, arrested, possibly deported. To put it another way, don't try this at home.
What's good, my talented time travelers? Now, if you grew up in the 90s or just love the chaotic genius of two knuckleheads who turned dumb humor into pure brilliance, you're in for a treat. Today, we're diving into the totally surprising things you didn't know about Beavis and Butt-Head. But first, let's set the scene. Beavis and Butt-Head wasn't just a show, it was a full-blown cultural phenomenon. MTV took a chance on this low-budget, crude animation back in 1993, and the world was never the same. These two, with their dumb laughs and questionable intelligence, became the voices of a generation, and yeah, that might explain a lot. But did you know that Beavis and Butt-Head almost didn't happen? Or that one episode was so controversial, it got pulled forever? And the way that Mike Judge came up with their iconic voices is just as ridiculous as the characters themselves. So grab some nachos, sit back, relax, get yourself something to drink, and let's get ready to get into. My name is Cornholio. I need tipping for my bunghole. Are you threatening me? Are you threatening me? Yo. What just happened? Was I all right? I don't know what happened, but let's get into some surprising things you might not have known about Beavis and Butt-Head.
Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop!
Yards! He scores! The Bulls lead 80.
Girl, your hair's so nappy, Wilson couldn't pick it.
This is Max Headroom.
Are you kidding?
Beavis and Butt-Head ended due to creative burnout. Now, it might surprise you to learn that Beavis and Butt-Head didn't end because it wasn't popular. Far from it. The truth? Mike Judge, the creator behind those two hilariously dim-witted voices, hit a wall of creative burnout. In a 1997 interview with the Los Angeles Times, Judge admitted that he actually wanted to stop a little sooner. Imagine this, over 200 episodes in just a few years. That's a lot of fart jokes and music video roasts. After the second season, Judge remembers thinking, how are we gonna keep this up? He pushed through it though, catching second wins here and there, season 3, season 5, but the relentless pace wore him down. Judge explained that it was a grind, writing, animating, and getting the episodes on air as quickly as possible. There were no breaks, no time to breathe. He eventually decided, why not end it before it gets stale? And honestly, isn't that kind of brilliant? Retiring the show while it's still at the top of its game was a move that preserved its legacy and left us wanting more. Look, I totally understand this point here. A lot of people don't understand that content creation is not easy. Let me be the first to tell you that. It's not easy. Then to have to rapidly crank out that content. And he did what? Over 200 episodes of trying to remain fresh, not stale, still make people laugh. I totally get it. But I am so thankful he pushed through and gave us some excellent episodes of Beavis and Butt-Head. Beavis and Butt-Head, Daria for the win. Did you know that Daria, the queen of sarcasm and deadpan wisdom, was born because Beavis and Butt-Head had a serious gap in the smarts department? Yep, that's a true story. Then MTV president Judy McGrath took one look at the chaos of Beavis and Butt-Head and thought, you know what this show needs? Someone intelligent. Oh, and maybe a female character who isn't, well, just in the background. So enter Daria, modeled after a mix of Janine Garofalo's dry wit and the unapologetic vibe of Sarah Gilbert's character on Roseanne, Darlene Connor. And here's a fun little twist. The name Morgendorffer actually came from the showrunner David Felton's mom's maiden name. Talk about honoring the family in the coolest, most iconic way possible. Isn't it wild to think that without this genius addition, we might have missed out on one of MTV's most iconic and relatable characters? Daria wasn't just a sidekick. She was the voice of reason in a world full of chaos. And honestly, don't we all need a little Daria in our lives? And contrary to rumors, Tracy Grandstaff voiced Daria. No, it was not Janine Garofalo. I like Daria. Daria was cool. Daria made sarcasm cool. Daria was quick-witted. It was the total opposite of what Beavis and Butt-Head was bringing to the table. But a lot of people thought that this was solely based off Janine Garofalo, and it wasn't. And I'm glad to see that character come to fruition. She deserved her own series. Beavis and Butt-Head and the other iconic duo. Did you know that Beavis and Butt-Head had some very unexpected superfans? Well, according to Mike Judge himself, none other than Johnny Depp and Marlon Brando used to imitate the iconic duo. Yeah, you heard that right. Johnny freaking Depp as Beavis and the legendary Marlon Brando as Butt-Head. Picture that. This happened while they were working together on the 1994 film Don Juan DeMarco. So just imagine this. One of the greatest actors of all time, Brando, doing the classic laugh alongside Johnny Depp going full on Beavis. Can you imagine Johnny Depp going, I am Con Julio? It's wild to think that two Hollywood heavyweights got such a kick out of these two goofy animated slackers. If that doesn't prove the cultural reach of Beavis and Butt-Head, nothing will. Beavis and Butt-Head, straight up banned. Were you aware that Beavis and Butt-Head was so controversial that it got straight up banned in some places? Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Prison officials in Oklahoma decided the show was just too much for inmates and completely banned it. But it didn't stop there. Schools in South Dakota even outlawed Beavis and Butt-Head themed clothing. That's right, if you rocked a t-shirt with Beavis saying fire, fire, or Butt-Head doing his signature laugh, you'd be sent straight to detention or even sent home. This wasn't just a TV show. Most saw this as a rebellion in cartoon form, and apparently some people thought it was too dangerous to handle. Can you imagine your favorite cartoon causing that much of a stir? Yo, I remember the time when Beavis and Butt-Head was turning the world upside down on their head. But if you're honest with yourself, this wasn't the first time we've seen that. Do you remember when Bart Simpson came out? Do you remember the rage that Bart was sparking, especially in people like Tipper Gore? Man, you couldn't wear anything. I remember in school, it was very taboo to wear anything Simpsons to school at that time. And Beavis and Butt-Head just seemed to pick up where that controversy left off. Beavis and Butt-Head, when tragedy strikes. With that being said, with the last point, let's get into the major incident that caused all of this controversy from the show. In October of 1993, tragedy struck when a 5-year-old boy from Ohio set fire to his home, resulting in the heartbreaking unaliving of his 2-year-old sister.
MTV says it will take out all references to fire in the show after last week's fire near Dayton, in which the mother of a 5-year-old said her son lit the family's trailer home on fire because he acted out what he saw on Beavis and Butt-Head.
The boy's mother blamed Beavis and Butt-Head, pointing to Beavis's infamous obsession with fire and his reckless, arson-loving remarks. Backlash was immediate and overwhelming. MTV acted fast, moving the show to a late-night time slot, airing it only after 10:30 p.m. But that wasn't all. They went through every episode and erased any reference to fire. That's right, Beavis's signature fire, fire chant vanished completely. For the rest of the show's original run, the word fire became a forbidden relic wiped from the script. The only people who still have proof of those original episodes are fans who recorded them on their trusty VCRs, an eerie reminder of a darker chapter in the show's history. It wasn't until Beavis and Butt-Head returned in 2011 that fire references were allowed again. This moment reshaped the legacy of Beavis and Butt-Head, proving how much impact pop culture can have, for the better or the worse. It's a reminder of how something as absurd as this duo could spark real-world controversy. I remember this story, and I was so heartbroken to hear that this happened to this mother and her children and her family. This, however, was a very painful lesson, and we must, as parents, watch what our children are looking at. I don't think Beavis and Butt-Head, because it's animated, was necessarily for children, just like The Simpsons didn't start out for children. It wasn't necessarily for children. And so we really have to pay attention to what our children are watching these days so that we can take preventative action going forward. Beavis and Butt-Head are Buffcoat and Beaver? So all that controversy in the 90s dealing with Beavis and Butt-Head led straight to Congress. Imagine this. After that tragic fire incident that some linked to the show, Senator Ernest Fritz Hollings, a Democrat from South Carolina, decided to take aim at the offensive TV programming during a Senate hearing. As chairman of the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, he was ready to make a serious point about cleaning up what America was watching. But when it came to name drop Beavis and Butt-Head, Hollings totally fumbled. He called them Buffcoat and Beaver.
We got this, was it Buffcoat and Beaver or Beaver and something else they had? I haven't seen it, I don't watch it, but whatever it is, it was at 7 o'clock. Buffcoat, and they put it on.
Yeah, Buffcoat and Beaver. You can almost hear Beavis laughing. What a dork. The moment was pure comedy gold, even if it wasn't meant to be. Here was the serious senator railing against the most controversial show on TV, and he couldn't even get their names right. It just goes to show how Beavis and Butt-Head managed to outsmart even the people trying to shut them down. It's the perfect mix of absurdity and irony, kind of like the show itself. This is why the young kids do the okay boomer type thing, because man, if you're gonna sit here and try to slander a show, you have to get the name right. You cannot sit there and say Buffcoat and Beaver. I don't know. I guess his intentions, I guess I don't know. I'm at a loss. Buffcoat and Beaver? Hey, okay, boomer. Beavis and Butt-Head and the canceled spinoff. So imagine a world where Hank Hill wasn't the propane-loving everyman we all know and love, but instead was the son of Beavis and Butt-Head's neighbor, Tom Anderson. Yep, that almost happened. Mike Judge initially pitched King of the Hill as a spinoff of his chaotic MTV hit, with Hank envisioned as Tom Anderson's son. If you're thinking, wait, Tom Anderson sounds a lot like Hank, you're right, because they're both voiced by Judge in his signature Texan drawl. So see, for all of you who thought King of the Hill was a spinoff, it was not. It was its own separate show. But let's be real. The offbeat, crude humor of Beavis and Butt-Head would have clashed with the grounded, heartfelt tone that makes King of the Hill so special. And thankfully, Fox agreed. They rejected Judge's initial pitch, which turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to the show. Why? Because it brought in the genius of Greg Daniels. Daniels, known for his work on The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live, joined the project to help flesh it out. And he didn't just tweak a few details, he transformed it. Daniels gave the world of Arlen, Texas, the depth and warmth we know today. He introduced unforgettable characters like Luann and Cotton, replacing Hank's original Tom Anderson-like dad with a brash World War II vet who lost his shins to the machine gun fire of Toho. And what about Hank's buddies? In the original pitch, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer were just snaggletooth hillbillies, quote unquote. Daniels insisted that they each needed their own quirks, and boy did he deliver. Dale became the conspiracy-loving Rusty Shackelford. Boomhauer got his iconic rapid-fire mumble, and Bill, well, Bill just became Bill. I'm glad that Hank got a long show, man. I really like that Boomhauer, man. I like everything you did, everything you said, man. Yeah, no, for real. I am happy that they did not do a spinoff of this. For the longest time, if you were like me, you thought that King of the Hill was a spinoff. Because I remember thinking, Tom Anderson sounds just like Hank Hill. Well, obviously, the same person, Mike Judge. We're doing the voices for both, but I am so glad King of the Hill became an independent series because that was fantastic in itself. And I'm glad that he split the legacies of the two shows and so that the streams did not cross. Beavis and Butt-Head and their humble beginnings. Okay, pop quiz. Are you aware of where Beavis and Butt-Head first debuted? And don't just say MTV. We know that. Well, if you said MTV's iconic Liquid Television segments, then correct. You get a gold star. That was also the same show that introduced the world to some of the weirdest and coolest animations of the 90s. Now here's where it gets a little crazy. Mike Judge, the mastermind behind those two laughably dim-witted teens, had a wild ride to success. Picture this. He went from teaching himself animation in his spare time while playing bass for a blues band to having one of his cartoons air on Liquid Television all in just a year. That's some serious hustle, right? It all started with Milton, a short cartoon about an awkward office worker. Sound familiar? Yep, it's the same Milton who would later star in Judge's classic Office Space. That short hit Liquid Television in 1991. And a year later, Mike dropped off Frog Baseball, the first chaotic glimpse of Beavis and Butt-Head. It was loud, violent, and absurdly hilarious. MTV knew they had something special on their hands. So what did they do? What anybody would have. They bought the rights to Beavis and Butt-Head, handed Judge a deal, and ordered a whopping 65 4-minute episodes. And just like that, two clueless teenagers became the unlikely kings of 90s television. I remember Liquid Television. MTV back in the day, I gotta give it to them. MTV at one point was super creative. MTV was daring and willing to try new things before it became all reality shows. And do they even still play music videos on MTV anymore? I don't know. I don't watch it. For real, I don't. But I remember a time when it was crazy creative, and I caught this on Liquid Television one time right after watching Yo MTV Raps, because that was really the only thing I watched on MTV, if I'm honest. But I'm glad that it was willing to give new animators a chance and a platform. Beavis and Butt-Head, they got the boot. Did you know that Beavis and Butt-Head got the old heave-ho right after it premiered? Yeah, MTV pulled the plug, but not for the reason you might think. It wasn't because the show stirred up controversy, though that definitely came later. Nope, the real issue was way more unexpected. Judge and his small team just couldn't keep up with the insane demand for new episodes. MTV greenlit the series, but creating all that chaotic genius took time. 2 weeks in, they were already out of material. Imagine us fans and what we went through back then. We were just starting to fall in love with Beavis saying, "Fire, fire," and suddenly, poof, no more episodes. For over 6 weeks, we were left hanging, wondering if our favorite dim-witted duo would ever return. But when they finally came back on May 17th, with episodes like Scientific Stuff and Good Credit, man, it was worth the wait. The show was back, better than ever, and ready to cement its place as one of the most hilariously dumb yet oddly brilliant series on MTV. I'm gonna go back to the point about content creation. That's tough. See, I get it. The network wants what the network wants. But if you're like a small company or a one-man band to crank out that much animation, I have a brother who is a graphics artist and has been my whole life. And I know how long animation takes to create. And they wanted how many episodes and how many months? Man, but Mike Judge must be some type of superhero because he got back to cranking them out, and I'm glad that he did. Beavis and Butt-Head makes a comeback. Now, for those of y'all that may have lost track of the duo over the years, did you know it made a huge comeback in 2022? Yep, the 9th season picked up right where the Wild movie Do the Universe left off. And trust me, it's just as ridiculous and hilarious as you'd expect. This time, our favorite dimwits are exploring the multiverse. Yeah, the multiverse. We're talking teenage Beavis and Butt-Head, then elderly versions of them, and even smart alternate versions. Imagine Beavis and Butt-Head with brains. Now that's a trip. But that's not all. Paramount Plus did something every fan had been waiting for. They dropped a remastered versions of all 227 episodes of the original series. And here's the kicker. It finally included the legendary music video segments. For years, those had been almost impossible to find through any legit way. It's like a time machine back to when those two would sit on their couch and hilariously roast music videos. If you haven't checked that out yet, what are you even doing here? Go look. The revival proves Beavis and Butt-Head isn't just stuck in the 90s, that they're timeless, or at least as timeless as two slackers with dumb laughs can be. So Beavis and Butt-Head made yet another comeback, and it was pretty good. I liked it. The whole multiverse thing in the beginning, I was kind of like, do we have to do another multiverse? But seeing them as teenagers, seeing them as smart, and seeing them as old men were really kind of comical. Now I understand if you were young and just getting into the show, it probably was a little stupid. It was probably stupid for newcomers, but for us old fans, I felt good to see this dynamic duo back on the screen again. I mean, their stupidity is unmatched of any two friends ever to be on a TV screen. But I was glad to watch those episodes, and it gave me some nostalgia for the old days of the show. So, good job, Mike Judge. We appreciate you. And alas, we're at the end of another trip around the sun, so to speak. What did y'all think? Did you like Beavis and Butt-Head? Was you into it? Is this classic kind of 90s nostalgia right here with Beavis and Butt-Head? For me, it kind of holds a place like Ren and Stimpy or The Simpsons when it came out in the late 80s. Beavis and Butt-Head is one of those things from the 90s, to me, that you can't speak on the 90s without speaking on them. So, what did you think? What was your favorite moment from Beavis and Butt-Head? Better yet, who was your favorite character? I always liked Tom Anderson. Who was your favorite character? Let me know down below. As always, you already know what to do, right? The family is growing. Let's keep the family growing. Road to 5,000 subscribers. And you know what I want you to do? I want you to love you, love somebody else, and I'll see y'all soon.